So to close our conference, we welcome Vaile Fujikawa. She's the program manager at the San Francisco Public Library Government Information Center. Passionate about access public record, Vaile has honed her genealogical skill through personal research and expertise in Archives.gov, USCIS.gov. Today's show shows us how to mine for government records, census schedule, and rare San Francisco map, and much more. Let's welcome Vaile Fujikawa.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Richard, and thank you all for being here. I'm going to get my little timer started just to keep track of where I am. Okay, there we go. So, welcome to Government Resources for Genealogists. As Richard said, I'm Vaile Fujikawa. I'm the program manager for the Government Information Center at SFPL. We're located on the 5th floor here at Main. So I hope after this presentation you'll feel inspired to come up and visit us. And it is really a joy to be with you all today. Before we dive in, you already heard my little introduction, so I really just want to reiterate that I'm very passionate about the public's right to know, and that's really the heart of what we do in the Government Information Center at the GIC, and it has really inspired my own research into my family's history, and I hope that it encourages you as well. So my favorite part about genealogical research is the treasure hunt aspect of it. I feel like Indiana Jones. It's really great to be able to dig into records and sort of put pieces together and to solve these family mysteries. So let me just give you a little overview of what we're going to discuss today. I'm going to give you sort of a big picture view of several different government resources from the federal level right down to our local library. I hope that you will see how these resources can be invaluable in uncovering your family's unique narrative. The treasure hunt of genealogy often leads us to official records, and these are a really humongous, a vast, and often underutilized resource that hold incredible clues to our past. So today we're going to cover some key federal resources like the National Archives and USCIS, and these are really the two big hitters. And then we'll also discuss some other federal resources. We'll discuss the essential value of vital records, and then highlight the unique resources that are available here at SFPL in the Government and Government Information Center. And then throughout all of that, I will share a piece of my own family's journey. My personal experience really underscores this profound impact that these kinds of records can have, and how a combination of perseverance and using diverse resources can lead to discovery. It's really more than names and dates. It's about understanding the human story and our place in it. So let's start with one of the biggest players. We're going to take just a snapshot look at Archives.gov, which is the website for National Archives and Records Administration, or NARA. And this is the nation's official record keeper for federal records. So its mission is to preserve and to provide public access to the records of the United States government. We're talking about billions, with a B, billions of pages of documents, photos, maps, audio, visual, the whole rigmarole. And the key takeaway here is that if it's a federal government record, it will eventually end up at NARA, we hope, making this a really crucial starting point for most research questions. So, what kind of genealogical gold can you find at NARA? You can see a snapshot here of their research resources page, and they've got their page. This page is specifically organized for genealogists. So they have a few how-to guides created for users. They've got some tools that will help you through the journey, and then they even have like events and local workshops. So I really encourage you to take a look at this page if you're not already very familiar with it. The popular topics section is what we're going to look at first. So, two of the most common and valuable types of information that are available through NARA are census records and military service records. Perfect. So, let's talk about the census. The U.S. federal censuses are taken every 10 years, beginning in 1790, and these provide a decennial snapshot of families. They're released to the public after a 72-year privacy period, so do keep that in mind. So the latest that's available online is 1950. You can see here that NARA has a census page available. It's organized both by year, but then it's also by topic. So you might use either of these things when researching your family history. These non-population schedules can be very interesting. So for example, the agriculture schedule details farm production, livestock, and acreage. Industry and manufacturing provides insights into businesses, capital invested, raw materials, labor. Mortality schedules list individuals who died in the year prior to the census, including age, cause of death, and birthplace. And then social statistics schedules cover a wide range of community data, such as schools, churches, and even paupers. So this is kind of valuable information that really can help you frame a time and a place. And then population census records are invaluable for understanding household composition. This lists things like ages and birthplaces, whether this be a specific state or a country outside of the US, as well as occupations, literacy, and in later years, they even listed immigration status. So for example, in the 1900 and 1910 censuses, these are really, really rich years for immigrants because the year of immigration and naturalization status are given, or even the numbers of years married. And this can help you track your changes in your family over the decades. Identifies when children are born. It can help you identify when your ancestors immigrated to this country, when families moved, or when occupations changed. When you use census schedules, when you're looking up your family's records on the census, really remember to check adjacent pages for family members who might have been counted separately, and always consider the phonetic spelling of names. When I was doing my own research, I can't begin to tell you how many different ways I saw my family's name spelled. So it's just really, really valuable to keep those things in mind. Think about, the way a name would sound to somebody who's not necessarily used to hearing names like that. All right, then we're also going to take a look just very briefly at military service records. So military service records are essential, and they're especially so for male ancestors, but increasingly women who served. NARA holds draft cards, they hold service files, and pension files. And these can reveal enlistment details, unit information, physical descriptions, and pension files, particularly for the Civil War and later, often contain rich affidavits of family details that you might not find anywhere else. For example, A Civil War pension file might include sworn statements from neighbors confirming a soldier's marriage or the birth of their children, and this would provide some vital clues for you if other records are missing. You can see here the way that NARA has the page organized is both by conflict or branch of service, and then they have some special other subsections that are organized by frequently asked questions. Now, I don't have a slide for this, and I apologize, but I also want to take a moment to discuss folks who are researching Native American ancestry. So NARA is the primary repository for records created by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, or the BIA, and its predecessors. And these records are really valuable. They can be pretty complex to navigate due to the historical context, as I'm sure you can imagine, as well as tribal sovereignty. So the key type of records that you'll find from the Bureau of Indian Affairs are Indian census rolls, which are taken annually or semi-annually from 1885 to 1940. And these can often list family members, ages, relationships within tribal communities, and they sometimes can bridge a gap between federal censuses. You can also view allotment records. So you'll see this when the federal government dissolved tribal lands and allotted those lands to specific individuals. So it's the delusion of a tribal territory, but then the allotment to individuals. And these sometimes can contain information about family members as well as different kinds of land ownership. And then there's also school records. So records from Bureau of Indian Affairs operated schools or supervised schools, which can include student names, tribal affiliations, and family information. Agency records. So this is correspondence and administrative files from local Indian agencies. And these can contain a wide variety of information about tribal members and their interactions with the federal government. And then finally, treaty records, which are documents related to treaties between the US government and Native American tribes. So these records are really crucial for identifying ancestors, for understanding tribal affiliations, and for tracing family lines within Native American communities. NARA provides guides on their website to help researchers navigate these specific collections effectively. And I really want to push the NARA guides. They are extremely helpful. It can be very overwhelming to look at these records, and there's really nobody better than the experts themselves to help guide you through it. So definitely spend some time on the NARA website and do some review of their step-by-step and how-to guides. Okay, so next we're going to look at immigration records. As we discussed, as we saw previously, NARA also holds crucial immigration records. And this is primarily ship passengers lists, but really all kinds of information. And this dates from prior to 1891 and really well after. These lists can provide original names, port of departure, arrival, age, occupation, and maybe sometimes even list the last residence outside the United States or the next of kin. So you can really see how valuable these lists can be. Say, for example, you have an ancestor who came over in the early 1900s, but you're not sure of their hometown, you don't know their parents' names. If you can locate your ancestor on a ship passenger list, you suddenly have access to the port that they sailed from. You suddenly know who their parents are. You have their parents' names. You might have the name of their hometown. And that really just opens up a whole nother avenue of research for you. It's a very, it's like a treasure trove of information. And these are really vital for tracing immigrant ancestors back to their countries of origin. But do be aware when you're looking at these ship manifests, sometimes over time the format can change. So if you as soon as you get used to something looking one way, it's going to stop looking the way you expect it to look. And it's going to start to look another way. So really remain flexible and just be aware that sometimes the formats of things change. You're also going to find early naturalization records at NARA. And this is particular to those who naturalized before September 27th, 1906. I want you to keep that in your mind, particularly if you forget the exact date, that's fine, but really remember 1906. So before 1906, any court of record, whether it be municipal, whether it be county, state, or federal, could grant citizenship. And if it was a federal court, super, those records are often at NARA or at a NARA facility like in San Bruno. However, sometimes it can be very challenging to find these records because of varying indices. There's no central index that tells you how these things are organized. So it's not like when you're up on the 3rd floor or the 4th floor and you're like, oh, Dewey Decimal, I know how to use that, right? Everything is a little bit different depending on where you are and who organized it first. And this actually brings me to kind of the first part of my own story. My research began with a very specific goal. I was exploring eligibility for Italian citizenship through right of blood, which is to say that prior to this year, Italy had very relaxed rules about having your citizenship recognized. It seemed like it might be possible for my family to obtain Italian passports through demonstrating our ancestors had never stood before an Italian judge and revoked their citizenship. When I began, though, I didn't have a lot of information. All I had was my ancestors' American name, not even their Italian names. I had our surname, but again, spelling problems, right? And then I had a very rough guess of what year my ancestor arrived. So I started with Archives.gov, and I began with census records. I had located my ancestors in a census from the 1940s, and I'd even seen my second great-grandfather's draft card. And both the census and the draft card indicated that my second great-grandfather had naturalized, but this was really not sufficient for me. I really needed proof. I needed to know more. So I went further and began searching for ship manifests and early naturalization papers. And this was my first big genealogical brick wall. Despite looking at various spellings of our family name and looking through all kinds of dates, I really couldn't find anything about his immigration records directly. No luck with naturalization papers either. It was a very frustrating start, but it had its hooks in me, and it really taught me the importance of persistence in exploring all avenues. So when naturalization records aren't found at NARA, and especially for those who naturalized after 1906, your next stop is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS. So we've got a little snapshot of their genealogy page here. There's a few options for you. If you have a case ID, you can search for the case ID. You can make a records request, and they have a flow chart on how you should begin your research. So let's see. This agency, USCIS, is the successor to Immigration and Naturalization Services, or the INS, and they hold critical immigration and naturalization records. Again, that key date to remember is September 27th, 1906, because after this date, The naturalization process became federally standardized, and the records are much more consistent and detailed. And so this is where you'll find the most comprehensive files for many 20th century immigrants. As the federal government took over the primary responsibility for naturalization, things started to look a little bit more regular, and they didn't have that kind of variance that you saw when it was like city, county, or municipality. So this standardization was a direct result of the Basic Naturalization Act of 1906, and this aimed to create a uniform naturalization process and centralized records. And so this is particularly important for genealogists because it means even if an immigrant naturalized in a local court, so if your ancestor naturalized in after 1906 in Houghton, Michigan at a local court, a copy of their naturalization petition and their certificate would have been sent to the federal government. So the records would not be lost. And this kind of centralization makes finding these records much more feasible than the earlier scattered records. All right, I'm going to talk for a minute about A files, and I'm going to talk about it first in the context of USCIS. So there's a little asterisk right here. So USCIS is where you can find alien files or A files, which are comprehensive records created for immigrants who naturalized or applied for benefits after 1906. These are often rich with personal details, photographs, addresses, family members, previous names, and original documents from various stages of immigration. They can be multi-page gold mines for genealogists. They sometimes include visa applications, medical examination results, affidavits of support from relatives, and even records of deportation hearings. So always check every single page of your A file as you receive your ancestors' A files, because hidden gems can be found throughout these. And they offer insights into the journey of your ancestors, their family connections, and life in the US. And these files can be particularly extensive for individuals who had ongoing interactions with immigration authorities, such as folks who had to apply for multiple visas, extensions, or who were faced with legal challenges. So here's my asterisk, a note about A files. The United States Citizenship and Immigration Service and the National Archives and Records Administration signed an agreement on June 3rd, 2009 to make A files a permanent series of records that were eligible for transfer from USCIS to NARA 100 years after the immigrant's year of birth. So that means for my ancestor, who was born in like 1886 or whatever, I was able to go through NARA. But for more recent A files from 2025 to 1925, you would seek that information through USCIS. Okay, so that's important to remember because they are located in both places and it can be a little bit confusing. All right, so you're also at USCIS, find more detailed naturalization certificates and petitions post-1906. So these are really richly detailed also. They include the exact birth date, which if you've tried to find your ancestors' birthdays, you know, looking at Ancestry.com or the like, sometimes many, many different birthdays are listed, right? So the exact birth date and place, including port of entry, date of arrival, and the names and birthdays of spouses and children. These are crucial details for building your family tree. The petition for naturalization, in particular, often provides a wealth of biographical information about the applicant, their family. It includes their last residence outside of the United States, date of birth, and sometimes even the names of children who may have stayed in the old country. So the great thing, if this seems like a lot and it seems very confusing and cumbersome, that's because it is. But the great thing is that USCIS has a dedicated genealogy program specific for these types of records requests. So this is the page we're looking at here. And that's the official channel to access them. It's a very structured process, as you can see from this flow chart. And it requires specific forms, and it sometimes requires proof of death, but the payoff can be really immense in terms of the detailed information that you receive, and it often can provide a very complete picture of an immigrant's journey to citizenship. And for folks who are researching Asian American ancestors, and especially those who immigrated after the Chinese Exclusion Act was repealed or other restrictive laws changed, A-files and naturalization records are really the most comprehensive sources of information available. So after I hit that brick wall, just kind of manually searching through ship manifests and seeking proof of my ancestors' naturalization. And even though I saw that naturalized checkbox on the census, which I said earlier was very unsatisfying to me without the actual document in hand, USCIS.gov became my next step. I utilized that genealogy search request program that I spoke of, and I submitted my request in December of 2024, so fairly recently. And I really needed definitive proof of my ancestors' naturalization for my application for dual citizenship in Italy. And that census checkmark, while it was a clue, it wasn't really enough. The waiting period was very significant. There were times where I almost gave up hope of ever seeing these documents. I didn't think I would ever know. I thought they forgot about me. I was actually carrying around a notarized copy of request for proof of non-naturalization, which is another document you can request from USCIS. And that would have been the next step in the process should my ancestors' naturalization paperwork not be found. You absolutely have to learn to be patient when you're researching your family tree. But then in May of this year, so 2 months ago, the package arrived. I got the package containing my second great-grandfather's naturalization papers. And the feeling of seeing his official documents was really incredible. It was really a tangible link to the past, to his decision to immigrate to the United States and his journey. And this was very moving for me. And even though recent changes in Italian law meant that I ultimately could not pursue citizenship through my nonno Carlo, the historical and personal significance was immense. So I saw his original signature. I saw the date that he renounced allegiance to the King of Italy. My ancestors immigrated when there was a king in Italy, and the details of his new life in the United States. So his journey, and that's him up there, that's my nonno Carlo, his journey enduring these hardships and renouncing a past to give his descendants a shot at a better and more equitable life really made me realize how remarkable my family's story was, a testament to resilience and hope. And while our family was so focused on survival, we really lost touch with a lot of our culture. These government tools helped me to remember why my family came here. And it filled me with immense pride for their sacrifices and their contributions. And it really cements for me that genealogy isn't just about names and dates. It's really about understanding how we fit into the world. So thank you to my nonno. All right. Okay, so we talked about the heavy hitters, right? We talked about NARA, and we talked about USCIS, and we talked about the different kinds of records you're going to find in those places. I'm going to talk to you now about a few different options that are a little more niche, but if they apply to you, I think they can be very rich with information. So a quick note before I dive right into this section, all of the websites that I reference in this slide deck are located on like the second to last slide, so you can take a picture of them. I'm going to say them, but don't feel like you have to write them down. They are available at the very end too. So let's see. These sites that I'm going to talk about now can really sometimes fill in gaps if they apply to you. They can provide unique insights that some of the more common records might miss, and that can help you take a different angles or different looks at your research. So first, we're going to talk about the Bureau of Land Management, or the BLM, and specifically, we're going to discuss their General Land Office, or GLO, G-L-O, GLO Records. And that website is glorecords.blm.gov. This site focuses on original land patents and survey records for what are known as public land states. And these are states that are formed from federal lands, not the original 13 colonies. So like California, which had their land distributed by the state. The GLO website provides images of actual historical documents and can confirm early land ownership, provide previous residence, and sometimes even military service details if the land was granted as a bounty. So, for example, a land patent might state that the land was acquired via military bounty land warrant, and that would point you back to NARA for military records. So you can find the legal land description, the patentee's name, and the date that the land was acquired. It's a pretty cool tool. Next, we're going to talk about the VA, or the Department of Veterans Affairs. Now, military service records are primarily at NARA. The VA holds records related to veterans' benefits, and those are two distinct things. The Beneficiary Identification Records Locator System, BURLS, or the BURLS database, which is accessible at a website that is BURLS, BIRLS.org, indexes deceased veterans who received benefits. So finding an ancestor here can lead you to requesting their VA claims file, or their C file, which can be hundreds of pages long and contain extensive personal, medical, and family information which is not found elsewhere. These files often include medical histories detailing injuries, illnesses, and correspondence that can paint a very detailed picture of an ancestor's life and their family circumstances. All right, now this is, I think, probably the most niche one that we're going to talk about next. This is the National Library of Medicine, or the NLM, and this is a long web address. It's nlm.nih.gov/HMD/genealogy/index.html. This one is like super specialized, but if it applies to you or your ancestors, it is very powerful. So it focuses on historical medical collections, especially for researching ancestors who are in the medical field or folks who had specific health histories. For example, the AMA Deceased Physicians MasterCard file can provide biographical details for physicians from the mid-19th to the mid-20th century. And that includes their education, the places where they practice medicine, and their cause of death. You might also find medical journals or hospital records that could provide context for public health or specific illnesses that may have occurred during your ancestors' time. It's a pretty unique resource for uncovering details about health, medical education, and professional lives that will probably not appear other places. And then finally, we're going to discuss USGIS, or the United States Geological Survey, through their TopoView site. It's another long one, but don't forget, all these websites are listed at the end. So it's ngmdb.usgs.gov/TopoView. And this provides access to historical topographic maps from all over the country. These maps are really excellent for understanding the geographical context of where your ancestors lived, including old roads, structures such as schools, churches, or cemeteries that might not exist today. And they show changes in the landscape over time and reveal how an area might have developed or even declined. For example, you might see an old crossroads or a specific farm location that really helps you visualize your ancestors' daily lives and movement, which can give you a deeper sense of their environment. All right, I'm going to take a drink of water, and we're going to get started talking about vital records. So we covered federal documents, by and large. Now we're going to move on to state and state-county documents, and that is vital records. So these are official government documents that mark life events such as birth, marriage, death, and it's really important to remember this distinction. These are kept at the state or county level. These are not kept at the federal level, so don't go to NARA expecting to find somebody's birth certificate. And it's not always standard. Like, some states keep these records, but other times it's counties or cities. So unfortunately, I can't give you a definitive, this is where you go. It really depends on the locale. So, for example, some states began keeping birth records much earlier than others. They might be held at the county clerk's office versus a state health department. With that said, if you're willing to do the work, their genealogical value is immense. They provide direct proof of events, specific dates, and exact places. They're crucial for establishing parentage and legal family connections. And they often provide the names of parents, including the mother's maiden name, on a birth certificate, spouses, or other key details that are not found in other records. For example, a death certificate can provide you with a wealth of information, including the deceased birth date, the place where they died, their parents' names, their spouse's name, burial location, occupation, cause of death. They are really, truly the foundation of your family history research and allow you to build a solid, documented lineage. So, acquiring my family's vital records unlocked another family mystery for me, one that I have been acquainted with nigh on 43 years. And it's a very personal one. As I had said earlier, through necessity, my family had lost touch with our culture. However, my mother really wanted to carry on the family line by naming me after our Nona. Our whole lives, though, she went by her American name, which was Vaile, and she had no copy of her birth certificate. So when I would say to my mom, "Mom, why is my name spelled wrong?" Because we always knew my name was spelled wrong. She would say, "Oh, Noni's birth certificate got burnt in a fire." You know, like, we didn't have the records, and it was insurmountable that we could, write to wherever Noni was born, because, again, nobody knew, and receive those records. So when it came time to name me, my Nona took her very best guess at how my name, which is her name, ought to have been spelled. and as well as pronounced. So my whole life, my name has always been a bit of drama because no one knew how to spell it right. And then when you look at it, nobody knows how to say it. And family lore had also said that Nono Carlo, who you saw previously, and Nona Mina, my second great-grandmother, had named all of their children after operas. But I had never been able to locate an opera with my name in it, right? And I had a family friend when I was a teenager who was like a scholar of, you know, Italian music, and he was like, you weren't named after an opera. So it was all very offensive. But when I was able to work backwards, I got my noni's death certificate, and with my noni's death certificate, I was able to see where she was born in Michigan. And so when I had her birthplace in Houghton, Michigan, or Houghton, I was able to make a records request for her birth certificate. I had the last name, Bartolini, and I knew that the first name, at a bare minimum, started with V, right? So you can imagine my surprise and delight when I received her birth certificate and I saw her name, which is my name, our name, spelled properly for the very first time in my entire life, which is Veglia, and it's pronounced Vaile. And this is different from how we have said my name my whole life, but it's also very similar. And this document really not only provided this crucial genealogical data, but it also connected me to a lost piece of my identity and my family history, and it finally solved a lifelong puzzle about my own name. So I also found the opera, too. So how do you acquire these vital records? They are typically requested from state departments or from county clerk recorder offices for the specific jurisdiction where the event occurred. So like, my noni was born in the state of Michigan in Houghton County, so I was able to go to the clerk recorder's office for the county there and see how to make the records request. Some states have online portals, some clerk recorder's office have online portals, but sometimes you have to write in paper mail. So it really just varies organization by organization. It's really important to note when you go and look at these websites that fees also vary and sometimes requirements vary. So depending on how long it's been, how old the record is, you may need to demonstrate your relation to the individual. You might have to prove that the individual is deceased. There can be all kinds of hoops that you have to jump through. So always make sure you check official websites for the current procedures, for the current forms, and any necessary documentation to ensure a smooth request process. And another sidebar story about vital records and how they become so critical is that while I was waiting for that USCIS paperwork that I had referred to earlier, I had this really pivotal moment with some new information I found on Family Search, which is not a government archive, but it is a very valuable online discovery tool for genealogists. And that can often provide indexes or images of vital records, right? So I was able to pinpoint my ancestor's specific birthplace in Italy. This will be my Nonno Carlo, Veile's dad. And this was the key that I needed to directly request his Italian birth certificate from the commune where he was born in Italy. And this process really, really helps to underscore the vital role of these records. So once I had this key piece of information, I could begin systematically building a comprehensive paper trail of our family's vital documents by making these records requests at the appropriate local clerk recorder's offices here in the United States. And that is how you confirm your lineage step by step, right? Building your family's story brick by brick and connecting all of those dots across the generations. All right, so vital records. Who knew they would be so exciting? All right, so we're gonna get much more local now. So we're gonna talk about the GIC. We're gonna bring it home to some of our local treasures here on the 5th floor at San Francisco Public Library's Government Information Center. And the GIC holds a pretty unique position. We combine a vast combination of local, state, and federal resources, including federal microfilm holdings. So that's kind of fun. And it's all in the same place, all under one roof. You don't have to go to 14 different websites. You can come visit us at the desk, and we can help you. We have direct access to microfilm readers on the 5th floor and mags and news. And crucially, we have a very knowledgeable staff who, if they don't know the answer, is willing to learn alongside you. So we are a bridge between the federal collections and the specific local needs of San Francisco genealogists. Among our key offerings are extensive federal census schedules on microfilm for 1860, 1870, 1880, 1900, 1910, 1920, 1930, and 1940. And these, again, provide that decennial snapshot for California residents, revealing household members, the ages of household members, where folks were born, what their occupation was, and tracking families' movements over time. So you can trace your family from one decade to the next and observe changes in their lives and households. One of the hidden gems of my department is the San Francisco enumeration district maps for 1852, 1860, 1870, 1880, 1890, 1900, 1910, 1920, and 1930. So these maps are absolutely crucial for urban genealogical research. They can help you pinpoint the exact locations, street locations within the census. And this is invaluable if you have a common name or if you have a known address for your ancestor. Imagine knowing that your great-grandparents lived on a specific street in 1910. These maps can lead you directly to their entry on the census schedule. So as I shared earlier, census records were a crucial part of my own journey. They're an excellent place to start, and if you know your grandparents' name or your great-grandparents' names or your family name, that is like a really important jumping off point, and you can go so far with that information. So beyond the federal census, the GIC also holds California census schedules on microfilm for 1850 and 1852. And these are vital because 1850 California state census serves as a crucial substitute for our copy of the 1850 federal census that is lost. It's not like lost for everyone, it's just lost for us. And they are crucial, those are crucial records for anyone in San Francisco, Contra Costa, or Santa Clara counties. So this is a huge advantage for anyone who had early California roots, and it fills a really significant gap in the federal records. They also provide early, unique population snapshots for California's rapidly growing gold rush era, and it captures individuals and families just as the state was forming and before the state's population exploded. Okay. Oh, yes, okay. Another unique resource that the GIC has is a collection of, and this is a secret, okay, so you're in on some cool secret information, but I don't want it to be secret, so tell all your friends. A valuable collection of uncatalogued county maps that cover the whole state of California. So these maps are really awesome and useful for understanding local geography, property boundaries, and identifying old place names or features that may no longer exist on modern maps. They provide a deeper spatial context for your ancestors' lives within California counties and help you visualize their farms, towns, or neighborhoods. Now, because these are uncatalogued, They're unique to the GIC, and our staff can help you navigate them or uncover specific geographical details. So please come up to the 5th floor and ask to look at the county maps, and we will be absolutely delighted. And in fact, to access any of these GIC resources or for assistance accessing any of those websites that I discussed, please do come up to the 5th floor. Our friendly and knowledgeable staff are always available to assist you with obtaining records, getting set up on microfilm readers, finding specific resources, or developing effective search strategies. We really want to see these collections be used, and we are happy to help you make use of them. So again, if we aren't always like super experts on things, we are happy to learn alongside you. So I've got my tips and tricks here. There's a couple of things I want to make sure that I point out. I mentioned Native American records, right? So you're going to look at the Bureau of Indian Affairs on NARA, but I also want to make sure that we address descendants of folks who were enslaved. So if that is the case, you want to look at the Freedmen's Bureau, and those records are also at NARA. There's probate records there, early census records, pre-1870. Enslaved individuals were often enumerated, but they got age engendered, but they did not record a name. So just make sure, be aware those resources are available. And then, so I'm gonna just go ahead and let you review that. I won't read it out to you because it's pretty straightforward, bullet point list there for you. And then remember to be persistent and to be patient. There's gonna be challenges, there's gonna be dead ends, but every discovery, big or small, builds on your family's unique narrative. Celebrate each step along the way and remember that there's another story waiting to be uncovered. So thank you so much for joining me today. Those are those useful websites. I'm gonna take a drink and then I'm gonna show you the slide that has the email address for my department on it. So take a picture if you need to.
Any question?
Don't ask me hard
Any
ones.
comment? Okay.
Oh, yep. The one before this? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to wait for people to put their cameras down. All right. This tips and strategies.
Okay.
Oh, it's hot up here, y'all.
I'm going to ask a loaded question.
Uh-oh.
Any news on federal cuts on National Archives?
Nothing outside of what was going on a few months ago with the,
With the what?
with the resigning of the head of the archives and all that. But there's not been any
Yeah.
updates since then.
Well, that's your world. We're not all up to speed on that. There's so much going on. So you're saying that the head of the National Archives, I think there was a big brouhaha.
Yes, that was several, it was, what was it? Yes, fired in February or,
With no cause. Okay.
yeah.
Anyone? Okay.
Okay, I'll move forward one so you can see your useful websites. And then I'm going to move forward one more after you get a picture of that because our email address is on there.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I was wondering the state census, 1852, is that available online or is it through microfiche only?
That is an excellent question. My California documents person just left. But it's definitely available upstairs, and it may be available on our
And it is
website.
statewide?
Oh. Sorry, I wasn't. I apologize. So as I was saying, my California documents specialist just left the room. You asked just in time. It may be available online, but I cannot speak to that with 100% confidence. So you should definitely take a walk upstairs and ask, or you can email us here at our email address, governmentinfo@sfpl.org, or even give us a call at 557-4500. It's Tuesday. We're open till 8.
Anyone? Questions? or a comment? Okay.
Do you have any recommendations on vital records for adoptees?
Oh, wow, that's a really great question. And unfortunately, that is not my area of expertise. I would really need some time to think about that. That's another great thing to either email governmentinfo@SFPL, and we could spend some time thinking about it and probably point you towards some resources that would be helpful. That's a great question. Thank you for asking.
I have a question here.
For adoptions, there's an organization called PACER. I believe that's the
Okay,
name.
is that a government organization or is that a nonprofit?
No, it's not a government
Okay,
organization.
okay.
Anyone? Any? Okay.
I wonder if the medical source for that you know, specifically for doctors, does it also include nurses?
That's a great question. You know, I don't, again, I'm not entirely certain. That would be definitely, I think it's general, so I do feel like it may be for nurses also, but I wouldn't want to say yes and then be wrong. So that would be worth looking further into. See, we learn a lot as we go in government information. There's a question in the back, Richard.
What is the AMA website again?
The AMA?
What's the AMA? You said, or well, the medical one.
Oh, that's NIH. Let me go to the end. It's very long. So that is the second from the bottom.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the very long ones. And that's definitely worth taking a gander at. They're all very interesting.
Here's the question.
Very quickly, did you apply and actually, from your research with documents, apply and get awarded the dual citizenship with Italy?
Oh, no. Italy changed their rules. So they changed their rules in April. So you have to be within 2 generations, and I'm 4. But that's okay. I know why I'm here.
I have a question about proving that you are a descendant in order to access records.
Oh,
Aside
sure.
from genealogy, I mean, historians would want to use these records. So I'm just curious, legally, do you have to be related to the person whose records you're asking for?
Not always. It is dependent on the number of years it's been since the person was alive. So it is like, for example, for my Nona who passed away in 1992, I needed to provide proof that I was related to her. But for her dad, for my Nono Carlo, who passed away in the 60s, it wasn't necessary. So it just depends on the length of time it's been, and I think it also, I don't think there's a standard. It's one of those things that varies state by state or county by county.
Hi. So I'm having a difficulty getting my own vital records because I legally changed my name, and my birth certificate is in New York State, and they keep. I tried to apply for an amended birth certificate, and they wanted all this information I didn't have.
Sure.
And then I also think in terms of how do I prove that I'm related? You know, when I look at people and I have a different name.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I cannot give legal advice. I can only provide the information. So my suggestion would really be to contact that clerk recorder's office and see if you can make an appointment, either, online or however, to speak with an actual human being to understand what kind of documentation that you need to provide to prove your identity. And then always one thing I try to remember is, like, if I'm looking at something too narrowly, like if I was going to change my name from Vaile to Vaile, like I have to take a big picture view of it first and kind of figure out what hoops I need to jump through to satisfy the bureaucracy, so to speak, before I feel personally satisfied. So, but my number one step would be to contact that clerk recorder's office and see if you can make an appointment with them.
I'm just curious. I have a brother who passed away when I was 5 years old.
Sure.
And I'm not even sure how would I exactly maybe go find his birth and death record.
Well, it seems like if I were in that situation, I would probably start with the census and see if he was on the census. And then I think one of the options, one of the like non-population censuses included death records. So you might want to check to see if that was in a year where you could see like members of the family who had died. And then from there, I would probably, again, contact your clerk recorder's office. I did not always have the correct spelling of things. The way my family's name was spelled changed very many times. So like sometimes it was Bartolini with an A, which is the actual way, and then sometimes it was Bartolini. And so when I was looking for family records, I would often have email exchanges with the folks at the agencies and tell them, hey, it could be either of these spellings. I think the first name is spelled this way, but really maybe you should just broaden it to like V asterisk or whatever. And I had to do this with more than one family member because of variations in spellings and variations of names, and like the names we called people as children were not their actual names, and I never, right, I never knew their actual names. So starting those conversations with individuals, it can be extremely valuable. And so far as I have discovered, the folks who work in the clerk recorder's office really want to help. They are very much, invested and aware of the challenges of doing genealogical research and willing to have those conversations. We good? Okay.
Any more? Okay.
I'm gonna
All right.
just make sure.
Let's put our hands together and thank